It's the latest phase of a battle for influence with China in the South Pacific region. Australia, Taiwan and Canada have simultaneously announced steps to bolster their presence at a time when tensions in the South China Sea have been on the boil. Let's begin with Taiwan. The country's president, Tsai Ing-wen, commissioned two US-made Perry-class guided missile frigates into service at a naval base in the south of the island. These two Perry-class warships have been renamed as Ming, Chuan and Feng, Chia, and they will be deployed to patrol the Taiwan Straits.
面对着跟过去截然不同的安全挑战，对岸在区域周边的军事行动，不仅试图削弱台湾的主权，更将破坏区域的和平稳定。除了传统上的军事威胁，另一方面来自于境外的非传统威胁，特别是中共对台的山寨。
Beijing, in fact, which has never renounced the use of force to bring Taiwan under its control, considers Taiwan as a breakaway province of quote-unquote one China, as they call it. The Taiwanese democracy has gained symbolic importance as China has become increasingly authoritarian and moved closer to a one-man rule under Xi Jinping, the president of China. Joining Taiwan's efforts in ramping up militarization in the South China Sea is Canada. Canadian frigate HMCS Calgary has taken part in war drills in the Indo-Pacific.
East China Sea rarely represents the largest concentration of military hardware in the world. There's certainly a lot of geopolitical interest in the world with what some of the local nations are doing, and Canada represents an interest in international rule of law and adherence to the freedom of the seas. You know, it certainly shows that we are continuing to be more interested in how things are progressing to this point.
The Canadian warship is now docked at the naval base near Tokyo. It left Canada in July on a mission that has taken it through the East China Sea to Australia and into the contested South China Sea, where it encountered curious Chinese warships. While Canadian presence in the South China Sea is set to remain persistent, Australia too is looking to counter China's rising influence in the South Pacific region. Canberra is set to offer island nations in the Pacific more than $2 billion in grants and cheap loans to build infrastructure. These measures have been designed to bolster the economy and security of these islands. It's worth mentioning here that these sparsely populated countries control a huge part of the resource-rich oceans. Meanwhile, Australia is also trying diplomacy here. Foreign Minister Marise Payne has held bilateral talks with Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. These talks are aimed at resetting the troubled diplomatic equations between the two countries. Ms. Payne is the first Australian foreign minister to visit Beijing in almost 3 years after tensions erupted over the passage of foreign influence laws and Australia's criticism of China's militarization of islands in the South China Sea. Also talking are Washington and Beijing in the thick of the trade war. Their top diplomats and defense chiefs will be meeting in Washington later tonight, looking to lower tensions on other issues that have put a chill on relations between the two world powers. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary Jim Mattis will meet their counterparts Yang Jiechi and Feng at the State Department. These talks were due to be held in Beijing last month, but were postponed after Washington announced new arms sales to Taiwan, and the US and Chinese vessels came close to colliding in the South China Sea. The rescheduling of this dialogue signals an effort by the two sides to contain the slide in the relationship. China also views this as a scene setter, if you may, for the upcoming meeting between Trump and Xi. The two presidents plan to meet on the sidelines of the G20 summit, which is being held in Argentina at the end of this month. China and the United States have put tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars of each other's goods. Donald Trump has threatened to tax the remainder of China's $500 billion exports to the United States if the trade dispute is not resolved.